right, I'm Bob Booth, and I'm recently retired from the State University of New York at Fredonia, where I taught sculpture for 41 years. I think that the best way of understanding a person's work probably is to see it within the context of the work that they've done before. I think that the evolution of an idea is every bit as interesting as any one individual piece, and in many cases maybe a lot more interesting than any one individual piece that you might be confronted with. When I look back at some of the work that I did as a student, from the perspective where I am now, I can see these glimpses of what I was going to end up doing over the next decades. It's kind of interesting. Some of the work that I did back in school was very similar to, at least idea-wise, as to some of the work that I'm doing now. And in fact, I look at it and I wonder, if I was doing that then, why did it take me so long to get to where I am? I mean, clearly I was onto something. A friend of mine was fond of saying that he's the last one to know when he has a good idea. And when I look back on some of my sketchbooks, which I recommend highly, I see these little drawings that I had no idea when I drew them that they were going to amount to anything. They were things I didn't understand. They were things that I didn't know what to do with, but they were these glimpses into my future, actually, of what was yet to come. That doesn't tell you much about my work, but I would say that pluralism is probably the word that describes me best, or a pluralist. That is to say, I've had these moments in my life where I have to transcribe or codify experiences, thoughts, ideas into some sort of tangible form. And in my case, it's been both sculpture, object making, as well as drawing. I always thought of drawing as this medium that allowed me to be more narrative, to tell more stories or more complicated stories. Sculpture always seemed so stubborn. It seemed so blunt. It seemed so singular in its majesty. Of course, I came up in the era of abstract expressionism, and that idea of the heroic object was what sculpture was all about. And drawing allowed me to be intuitive. It made me a little more spontaneous. There's nothing spontaneous about carving stone or casting bronze. I mean, it's the processes that are so laborious that you have to have an idea, and it's got to be pretty well figured out, and then you're going to go about executing this thing. And if you enjoy the work, which I did, then the thought process kind of stopped, and the work process, the construction, actually began. So you went from being the architect to the construction crew. In drawing, it was different. Drawing it was more like orchestrating something intuitively as you went along. It was like free-form jazz. You could kind of like change directions quickly, add things, take it away. And if it didn't come out, you just get rid of it, because how much time did you have invested in it? Unlike a bronze casting or a wood carving or such. So I've worked in different directions, different medias. I've never been subservient to one media. The expression of an idea oftentimes demands different materials. Different materials have different languages to them. Bronze is different than stone, which is different than wood. Canvas is different than paper, which is different than dirt. You have to find the medium that is best suited for saying what it is that you're trying to say. So the work that you're seeing in this current show, although it has evolved out of a long process of finding out about myself and about the world around me and how we interact with it, a large part of this show, many of the pieces were done during the COVID lockdown that we've all experienced. And it's focused me on a sense of place, a sense of time, a sense of self-awareness. And so this idea of reflecting on where we are, how we got here, and how we're dealing with these places that we find ourselves is sort of the underpinning of the work that you're going to see in this exhibition, or that you have seen in this exhibition. You know, there's a famous quote, I don't know, it was attributed to John Lennon from the Beatles, and I don't know if it, maybe, I think somebody told me he copied it from somebody else, but he says, life is this thing that happens when you're busy making other plans. And it certainly defines my life. You know, I certainly never thought, having grown up in New York City, that I would be living in rural Western New York and teaching students at a college for 41 years. And yet here I am. I think the most important thing is to understand that you're learning a skill set, a way of thinking, a way of working, a way of knowing about yourself, about knowing about the world in which you live, that can go into art, certainly, but it can go into so many other fields. It's critical thinking, and critical thinking is a way of understanding and of coming to terms with the things that you're going to confront as you go ahead. Some of you are going to end up being artists, visual artists. Some of you won't. But the things that you learn in school, if you take it seriously, and if you ask a lot of yourself, will be of high value. That's it.